When you start playing Raid Shadow Legends, the first important decision you're going to have to make on your new account is when this screen pops up, you're going to have the opportunity to choose a starting champion. This will be the first rare that you can kind of use as an AoE damage dealer for progression on your account. So let's get an updated 2024 discussion about what is the best and most optimal starting champion. Let's rank them 1 through 4, and also in honor of the free-to-play competition hosted over on the hellhades.com website. Going to be a super fun event where I'm joining a stream soon, and I'm going to be participating in that, playing the game basically for the first time from scratch again after 5 years. So first, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory in terms of the starting champion meta and how it has evolved throughout the years, and then we'll go over some of your comments and polling over on the community tab to see if we can get to a consensus of what the most optimal decision is going to be here in 2024, if it's still the same or if it's changed and all that type of stuff. So over history, kind of the most unanimous viewed optimal choice has been Kayle right here, and mainly because of his ability to place poisons within his kit. But way back in the day, like when Raid was first released, there was a time where people thought Aethel was the optimal choice because she has the ability to place Weaken. And back then, the Demon Lord was by far the most important thing to progress. It might still be, honestly, but you wanted to get triple hitters because of the Giant Slayer Mastery. Now they added War Master, so it's a little bit less important. And then Weaken was also better back then. It's been nerfed since the very early days of Raid. So with Aethel having the triple hitter to proc the Giant Slayer Mastery, and then the amazing Weaken on her A1 to be super consistent on the Demon Lord, she was viewed as the optimal choice there for about a year in Raid Shadow Legends' kind of first iteration. And we'll go through the comments here in a little bit from the community, but we also have some people that think Elaine is the more optimal choice because she can do more AoE than the other starting champions. She's got 2 different abilities that can hit all enemies. And then you've got Galek right here who can do some interesting things like increase speed and lowering defense. So they're really all pretty decent. There isn't going to be like a complete trash can choice. It's just because Kayle could do the poisons, and that being so good in like the dragon and the demon lord and all sorts of different situations, Kayle was viewed as the overall most optimal choice. But now let's go ahead and head on over to the polling we've got, and you can see that still in 2024 we've got Kayle all the way up at the 83%, the overwhelming, far and away most voted on person here in the community with almost 4,000 votes. Pretty decent sample size there. So 83% of the community still thinking Kayle in 2024. And then the second choice, which I kind of thought it would be because of the more AoE, we've got Elaine coming in at 8%, and then both Aethel and Galek at about 4 or 5. Then let's go through and see what kind of comments we're getting here. We've got the first 6-star job is to help you make more 6 stars. Elaine does brutal 12-3, the fastest with lower gear requirements. I would say the fastest, I mean, sure, but you know, when you're trying to be efficient, if you're talking about maybe 4 or 5 seconds on a new account, I mean, obviously it helps, but is that going to be the determining factor? If you're a low spender, you're not going to have infinite energy anyway when you get to that point. But it is true that she does have more AoE capabilities than anybody else, so she would do it faster with probably a lower gear requirement for sure, which is definitely a benefit. Elaine is better in Arena 2 than Kayle because of the double AoE. Yeah, I would say that's true, especially early game. Kayle's poisons are handy, but you will have probably pulled a better poisoner like FB. They're probably referring to Frozen Banshee. Frozen Banshee is someone they added way back in the day with the only battle pass they ever did. She was one of the rare champions and is definitely a very solid, more available or more realistically acquirable poison champion, and that really did change how amazing Kayle is in the early game. I do agree. Before you really need that debuff for places like the Clan Boss or Dragon 20. And yeah, I think they make good points. Elaine is definitely a very solid choice. If I didn't go with Kayle, you know, it's tough. I probably would go with Elaine for some of the reasons they were talking about here. Galek is honestly slept on. Dude is amazing for pushing Fire Knight early stages to get those beginner missions done. Yeah, so the reason they're talking about that is because Galek is the only one, as you can see right here, with a 4-hitter. He's going to attack 4 times at random, which when you are in a boss fight context, all 4 of those hits are going to go on to the Fire Knight's shield and help you break through that. Plus, he's going to bring his own increased speed right here along with a defense break to help you slam through the Fire Knight, and it's also very handy in dungeons as well. The unfortunate thing is that this has really been power crept the last 5 years. This is so out of date. A 5-turn cooldown on a 4 times at random ability is just so bad. It needs to have a book there at the end where you can book it to a 4-turn cooldown at least. So that is pretty rough, because when we compare that, we head on over here to the Dark Elves, and then we go to Kayle. We've got our 4 times at random ability right here, where it does book to a 4-turn cooldown and helps us place a bunch of poisons, and then our 3-turn cooldown AoE right here, along with placing more poisons on the A1, whereas Galek doesn't really do anything on his A1. He's just, I think it's just attack one enemy 2 times. I think it literally does nothing. Yeah, so you're getting a lot more utility. At least you're getting a little bit of poison out of Kayle, but it comes at the cost of Kayle not doing a multi-hitter, whereas Galek can help you break the shield a little bit. And it's a fair call out from the comment section, because the Fire Knight is going to be one of the harder dungeons that you have to do early in the game. It's like Fire Knight and Spider, and so if you've got your starting champion that can help you progress in the Fire Knight, that is definitely going to be a noteworthy benefit for you in the early game progression phase. But then we've got a comment right here that says it's Kayle and it's really no comparison. You can still use him at high mid-tier content and you can make him work in the end game, but definitely not something you want to do if you have a choice. So we do have a lot of people still thinking that Kayle is the clear choice, even though we've seen things like Frozen Banshee, some more poison options and all that. And obviously when you garner 83% of the vote, really not surprising that most of the community is going to be leaning in that direction in the comment section as well. So yeah, I think you can honestly do fine with all of them. I don't think it's going to be some sort of catastrophic mistake if you pick the wrong starting champion. The story I always tell about my main account journey is I picked Galek, who was technically always kind of rated as the 4th best. We've seen some people say that now there's some synergies and some reasons to bring Galek, but he was always kind of thought of as the 4th best choice, and I picked him and I was just fine on my main account. So it wasn't the end of the world or anything. I'm probably personally leaning towards Kayle is still number 1, and I would say Elaine is definitively number 2. I think after that you can go either or number 3 or number 4 for Aethel or Galek. So I think for me personally, I would rank them as number 1 in Kayle still. Then I would go with number 2, Elaine. Gosh, and if I was forced to pick, I would probably go with Galek 3rd and Aethel 4th, but it's tough. It's close. I mean, you get the weekend on 1, you get the defense down on 1. Galek, that 5-turn cooldown is pretty brutal. Let me refresh my memory here on what Aethel's cooldowns are. We gotta go into the Sacred Order. Does she have one? That's a 5-turn cooldown. That really hurts for Galek. I may put him 4th just because of the 5-turn cooldown. So let me pull up Aethel. Yeah, 5 turns, and you can book it. 3 turns. Okay, so I mean, I'm not missing anything, right? I haven't used Galek for years, but that was a 5-turn cooldown, right? That you just can't affect. 5 turns, and yeah, it's just damage buff, 5 turns. Yeah, so actually never mind, go ahead. I'm gonna reset this. I'm gonna let that, if his book down to 4 turns, I would put him at 3rd, but I'm gonna put him at 4th because of the 5-turn cooldown, and then I'm gonna go Aethel at 3rd. I'm gonna go Elaine 2nd, and then Kayle is the still winner here at rank 1. I would say barely, though. I would say you can make a good case for Elaine, and I do really love the double AoE, but I would rather be able to progress in the dragon a little bit easier, because I want to be able to get good speed and lifesteal gear early in the game. I got to build all these faction wars teams and all these different progression teams I need. I want speed and lifesteal gear. I would rather spend a few extra seconds on the campaign than like Elaine's not going to be near as good as somewhere like the dragon, because I want all those poisons from Kayle, but she will help you in the arena having the multi AoE abilities for sure. But if I had to prioritize anything, it would be Demon Lord and Dragon, and Kayle is just going to end up being the best because of his poisons on the A1 and then also on his A3. And I also think there's another differentiating factor between Kayle and Elaine. You see Elaine's got this A2 right here, where she gets the extra crit rate if the champion is killed for 3 turns instead of just the 15% on this ability, which most of the starting champions get on their A2. But what I like about Kayle is you're going to be able to cycle a little bit better. He's the only one, I believe, that gets the self turn meter boost right here on the A2. We're going to fill the champion's turn meter by 25% for each enemy killed. So when you're clearing through waves or you're progressing through the campaign, you're able to cycle through, and early game when you're building in a lifesteal and all of that, that's super important because you can heal up faster and faster and be able to progress. So I think just the overall most consistent best answer is probably still Kayle, in my opinion. So I would have to agree with the community polling coming in at 83% for Kayle. That's about the percentage I would lean in. I'd probably be, you know, I mean, I rated them. Maybe like 70% Kayle, and then like 20% Elaine, and then like 6% for Aethel, and 4% for Galek. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into doing a new account for basically the first time ever. I think I did one for like 2 or 3 weeks, a couple different times, but I've never really done a free-to-play account for like 4 months or something, or been part of a big competition like this. It's going to be really exciting to see what it's like for someone like me that's been around since the very beginning. It's going to be great because I don't want to get out of touch with what it's like to play the game as a new player. It's going to be exciting for me to experience it through that lens and be able to relate to some of the newer people in the Raid Shadow Legends community. So I appreciate all of you, and remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy Raid Shadow Legends content like this. I'll see you soon in the next video. Peace.